that clip, it is very moving to a larger discussion that we know that is happening every single day in America in some neighborhoods and in some communities. And it is a discussion of all of us, 48 members of the Congressional Black Caucus, exactly raising the issue around the issue about justice. And how can we ensure that there is a system that we are safe in and that our community is safe. This movie, The Hate U Give, I think is very appropriate in this discussion. The person who I'm sharing this stage with is someone who has very hands-on experience, not relating to the incident that occurred, but that she was a police commissioner, superintendent, and since she's come in my class, she's been someone who I've learned a lot from. We have developed a real good friendship, and she's from the great state of Florida, Congresswoman Val Demings.
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank you all so much for being here, for joining us this afternoon. First, just thanks for attending the ALC and supporting the Congressional Black Caucus, of which I am a proud member. But thank you for being here in this session as we begin this very important discussion. Before I go into my comments, I do want to thank my colleague. He said we've developed a good friendship. Some days I question that, but no, he is just a wonderful colleague. We're in the same freshman class, and we're just so blessed to have him as a member of our class and this Congressional Black Caucus. Please join me in giving another round of applause for my colleague, Representative Dwight Evans from the great state of Pennsylvania. While I have the microphone too, if I just may take a moment of personal privilege and acknowledge, if you all, some of you were here with me at 11:30, you heard this, just act like you didn't hear it at 11:30 and just act like it's the first time and just cheer and, you know, just let it rip. But joining me also during this ALC is my partner, the man that I call my backup, the 28th elected sheriff of Orange County, Florida, and soon to be sworn in on December 4th as the first African-American mayor of Orange County, Florida, my husband, Jerry Demings. I'm a proud member of the Congressional Black Caucus, a grateful member of the U.S. House of Representatives. But if you go to my Wikipedia page, it says Val Demings, an American law enforcement officer. I remember growing up when I was a little girl, I wanted to be an astronaut. Being from Florida, I was fascinated with NASA. I wanted to be an astronaut. And then I decided, with my daddy's suggestion, he said that I was a pretty good talker. Not really sure what he meant by that, but he said that I needed to go to law school. And so I switched and said, I'm going to law school because I really want to help people. I want to make a difference in my community. I'm going to go and I'm going to defend those who cannot defend themselves. So I went to college and majored in criminal justice in the hopes of going to law school, but I remember when I graduated, I was really broke. I didn't have any money. I had to go to work. And I went to work first. My first job out of college was a social worker. I worked with families who needed emergency services, and I worked with foster care children. The job of a police officer is tough, but you want a job that will break your heart. Work with kids who should be loved and should be wanted, should never know what it feels like to not be loved or not be wanted. Work with foster care children. And then I got a little disgusted with the bureaucracy of the agency that I was working with. in Florida and decided to move from Jacksonville to Orlando to join the Orlando Police Department. I was elected as my class president, and I remember hitting the ground ready to make a difference in my community. Law enforcement is a profession that I have done. I did it for 27 years. I had the honor of working my way up through the ranks to become Orlando's first female chief of police. I tell you my story because as we get into this very deep discussion, I want to have a heart-to-heart discussion with you. It is a profession that I did for almost 3 decades, a profession that I loved, a profession that I knew if we were going to make the difference that we needed to, law enforcement had to work hand in hand with the community that we served. I wanted our community to see us as one. And so in the movie, which is a very powerful movie, they'll talk quite a bit about what world you live in, being black or white or rich or poor, or what side of the tracks you're on or what side of the issue you're on. But the bottom line is this. This movie is all about standing up for what you know is right. Regardless of the job that you do, the profession that you're in, and the profession that I did for a lot of years and I loved. It's about doing what you know is right, standing up for what's right, and speaking out boldly against what's wrong. Am I right about that? And so our call to action today for me as a former police chief, if I was talking to a group of law enforcement officers, I would say it's about standing up for what's right. That you took an oath to protect and serve your community. And that we police with our hearts and with our minds. We wear the badge over our hearts because it's supposed to be a constant reminder that we have to have the heart to do the job. And so I'm honored to serve today as your honorary host. I'm honored to be here with an amazing moderator who I'm getting ready to introduce, and an all-star panel, because the panel just happens to be the cast from the movie. Let's give them a round of applause before they come out. And now allow me the honor and privilege of producing our moderator for this afternoon, recently described as the Olivia Pope of Silicon Valley. By TechCrunch, Jotega is a leading voice in social impact tech and pivotal force in connecting Silicon Valley with Washington, D.C. Jotega is Vice President of Policy, Strategic Engagement, and Impact for Lead Up, a Silicon Valley-based, mission-driven financial technology company. She is a member of Lead Up's executive management team and represents Lead Up's regulatory, legislative, and social impact initiatives. Jotega Edie's team is responsible for measuring how Lead Up's products benefit consumers, such as saving customers more than $135 million in fees and interest to date. Let's just give her a hand just for that, right there. Her work has been highlighted in several publications like TechCrunch Incorporated, Black Enterprise, MSNBC, CNN, Huffington Post, LA Times, Washington Post, BET, Essence Magazine, and so many others. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our moderator for the day to the stage, Joteka Edie.
Wow, thank you so much, Congressman Timmons. Such an honor and pleasure to Congresswoman Timmons, to Congressman Evans. Hello, everyone. How are you doing? Come on, come on. We saw an amazing reel. We have an amazing panel and very important conversation. I am from South Carolina. And I'm going to take a page. You may see me throughout this panel discussion get a little shorter. I might take a page out of my sister from North Carolina, Fantasia's book. And if you know her, you know what I mean. But I want to just thank you for just being here for this very powerful conversation. Before I bring out this amazing cast, I just really want to give you a backdrop about this very important movie. And I want to ask you to do two things. One, for those of you that have your phones out, I want you to pull out your phone. And I want you to go on Twitter. Make sure you follow the Hate U Give movie. The hashtag is the Hate U Give. It's the hate and you is a U, the letter U, give. That's the hashtag. Tweet this conversation. It's an important conversation. We want to make sure that this conversation gets outside of this room. That is the power of this amazing conference. But The Hate U Give is a very important and pivotal movie. We saw the highlights. You will have an opportunity to see this film in its fullness on October the 19th in theaters across this country. It is absolutely important and vital that we show up when this film is released, because we have to send a message that these stories are powerful, that these writers that write these stories are powerful and important, and that we care about these critical issues. And also it's important that when you watch this film, that you tell someone about it, but also that you're moved into action. So without further ado, I am going to introduce to you all, they really need no introduction. They exude Black excellence. We've seen them all over, everywhere, in some of our most favorite films, on the radio, everywhere on the television, and we're just so proud and honored to have them with us today. So please join me with a very warm, loud Congressional Black Caucus Foundation Annual Legislative Conference welcome to the illustrious cast of The Hate U Give. Let's start off with Regina Hall. Russell Hornsby. In Common. Everyone, let's give them another round of applause. The cast of this amazing film. So first of all, I just have to say thank you. Thank you for your craft. Thank you for your dedication to the issues, to the craftsmanship of which you bring to your art. This film, I've had the opportunity to see this film. And when I saw the film, I literally sat quiet. I literally sat quiet because it was so powerful and it speaks to the times. Often we have heard the famous saying that art is truly a reflection of our reality and our world and our times. And this film speaks volume to our reality and our time. So I want to just start off with the cast and really if you can just share with this audience what drew you to this powerful film, and as you were participating in this powerful film, you know, what are some of the takeaways, or what is it that you felt? And we'll dive a bit deeper into just your characters and all the other aspects of this great film.
You want to start?
Y'all leads in the film.
Everybody's well, it's
You know, we'll start off with Black Girl Magic.
Okay.
We're going to start off with Regina. You know, Black Girl Magic. Yes.
Thank you. Well, first of all, speaking of Black Girl Magic, I think it was Angie Thomas's book. I mean, her book is
Absolutely.
Her book is so incredible and so poignant, you know, so timely. I mean, George Tillman has had he had such a specific and amazing take, and he's such a brilliant filmmaker. And then, then the script. There were so many people a part of it who were wonderful. So just to be a part of a story that was so timely, imperative, and that showed, you know, Black family and the dynamics of that love so powerfully. I really wanted to be a part of that.
Thank you.
For me, the word that kept coming to mind when I read the script and subsequently read Angie Thomas's book was authenticity. And, you know, in the book and in the story, I saw people, I saw a community that I was familiar with. I saw men that I was familiar with, women I was familiar with, a family that I was familiar with. And so I realized, you know, upon reading it, that this was a moment, you know, and something really, truly to be a part of. And what I hadn't seen really up to that point was the family dynamic, where this Black family is intact, is together, and they're together through love. And there's a sense of passion and a sense of purpose. And also, there is indeed a man present. And so I've yes. And I had to commend Angie for, I said, you know, you're a Black woman, and it was important that the story be told through this young Black girl, but I said I commend you for also having Black men present, in your book, and then subsequently in the film, and I knew that was just, as said, something I wanted to really be a part of.
Man, I just wanted to be in a movie with Regina, another movie. Another one, really. That was the sole reason I did this. No, seriously. I have to say, like, when I read the script, I hadn't read the book yet, but I loved the way it explored Black family, as Russell was saying, because not only were they, like, the nucleus of their family was strong, but, like, they had children who were kind of part of another family, but they embraced them, and like, the uncle was present, and it just showed the way our families operate sometimes, and it wasn't just, it was something I had never seen in film or in television, and also with the story dealing with a young man being, you know, killed by the police. I felt this is, for us to move the conversation forward, it's important that we understand each side of things and show things, and like, the only way that we really can get to progress in things is to listen to. As much as we know we're going through the issues, we got to understand how to part of moving forward is just understanding each perspective. And for me, playing a character that is a Black police officer and not falling into that stereotype, and really hearing what a Black police officer feels being in this situation and being part of the force, it was important for me to participate in that, because I feel like those are the things that will help us to get beyond this situation that we see has been going on in America for so long.
All right, thank you. You know, you all raised a very important point, that this film is based on a critically acclaimed, best-selling book by a Black woman, Angie Thomas, from Jackson, Mississippi, in the South. Regina, I want to go to you because, we saw in the clips, your role, you play a very important character, the mother in this film. You play Starr's mother. And this story in this film, it tells the story from the perspective of a young black girl, but we also see the power of black mothers. And it also, in this film, what we see is the diversity and the dynamic nature of the black woman, the role that the black woman plays. Could you just expound on just, the role of the black women in the community? We know that we're the heart and the soul, the bedrock, everything and all things between, but playing that role, if you can just talk a bit about that.
Angie Thomas, as a black woman, what I loved was the perspective she told the story through. What impact that has on our society. Not just the loss of a black man, but what that is to a black woman in that story, a black girl. Lisa was so great for me because I feel like everyone knows black women are strong. Everyone knows black women are powerful, we're smart, but you know what? We are capable of being in amazing relationships that are supportive and respectful of black men. I think that's I think that's been missing, from our narrative for a long time, that we're this or that. But, Lisa never once lost her strength by allowing Maverick to be the man of the household. And to be able to have Starr as a young girl experience, not just see, but live it, that they could argue, but the arguments never were to diminish one another. We are equally strong and equally supportive. And I think it's so important to say we don't have to be one or the other. And I want our men to know that, y'all ain't gotta go white, honey. We can,
I'm just gonna pause,
All right now.
So as a black one, I'm just gonna pause right there and just let all of you marinate on what my sister just said there. So you raised a very good point, and Russell, I want to go to you because in your opening comments, you spoke of the importance of there being, black men reflected in the family in this film, and Maverick and Lisa's relationship is strong. It's a nucleus. And Maverick represents so much of black fatherhood, but also a black father that is determined to instill in his kids, to one, protect his kids and children, to instill in his kids a legacy. So just even seeing the names of the characters, Starr, all of the children, the meaning, 7, of all of the children in this film. Could you just really speak a bit more, elaborate on, and really the power of this film as it relates to telling the dynamic nature of the black family, that not all black families, I think there are these stereotypes that every black family that the father is gone. That's not true. That's not true. We do know, and Common, I'm looking at you because of the prison industrial complex, that a lot of our brothers are not in our communities, but it's not the case everywhere. But in this film, it just really shows that in a dynamic way.
It does. What I really appreciate about the story, about the character of man, we're seeing a man who found himself. He lost his way, but he got back on the path. Got back on his journey. He sought redemption and he found it. You talk about the prison industrial complex. This man went to prison for 3 years, served his time, and became whole again, I think. And so what he did is he brought that energy, he brought that information, he brought that consciousness, right? He brought it back home. Mm-hmm. And with the support of his wife, he was able to give and lift his family up. He was able to become a new man. And the reality of it is that I know these men. They're family members. They are friends of mine. They are the men who have been to prison, who have come back, who have made good, on their time. And what I looked to do, what I wanted to do was honor them, honor their presence. The reality of it is that we know that black men are present, that they are husbands, that they are fathers, that they are in their community, that they are leaders of their community. And it's not reflected, hasn't been reflected with the consistency, but we exist and they're there. And so I wanted, with Angie's work, material, just to honor that, like to lift the brothers up. But again, as Regina said, we're walking in lockstep. The biggest thing that Regina and I wanted to convey when we sat down and talked with each other as actors, we said, we want to make sure that we convey the love, between this husband and wife, between this man and this woman, that they are equally yoked. And I think, again, that is important. I can't speak to who Maverick is and what he represents without honoring what Lisa represents to him, because he did not do it alone. The beautiful thing was he was open to receive, right? And so many of us, we're here, we're there, we are open to receive. And so, I wanted to give that.
Singing, Russell.
So I wanted to make sure that was there, and his heart was tenderized. You know what I mean? It was hard. No, but it was hard. Well, I did that too. No, but his heart was tenderized. He went in with a hardened heart, came out and found a tender side, and that was what enabled him to give and love his children, to raise them a certain way, and impassion them with a sense of purpose, with a sense of knowledge and wisdom and understanding.
Thank you. Carmen, I want to go to you because thug life, the meaning of what that actually means, and I think we explore that in the film, the day and time in which we're living, Trayvon Martin, Eric Garner, Walter Scott, Sandra Bland, Rotham Jean. I mean, we can go on and on and on. And in this film, Starr witnesses the murder of her friend who's unarmed. You've done an incredible amount of work. All of you have spoken to these issues. If you can just really speak on this film and how this film will propel and keep a conversation that is happening and that needs to be expanded in this community.
Yeah, well, I think one of the most important things and ways to bring people to your humanity, if they don't get to experience you in the flesh, as Brian Stevenson says, get in proximity of other nationalities and just us. If they don't get to experience us as black people in that way, is storytelling. And storytelling has to be told in a fresh way. It's got to be told in a way that's not beating people over the head with a message. It's got to be told in a way that may make people uncomfortable, but it's authenticity, as Russell said, that just you have to relate to it. But I think one of the most important things that you can do with storytelling is just humanize who we are. And because when you watch The Hate U Give, you see a family that loves a husband and a wife that are not perfect, but just are striving towards their perfection. And like they said, the love really exists. Well, every nationality feels love and can relate to that. Every nationality can feel, you don't have to be from a certain economic status to feel the love that they were able to have within their family and the pain that they experience. But it's important that storytellers are able to get us into that world and not just push people away. Because, sometimes I can watch a preview about something that's about this same subject, and personally, I just turn it off because I don't really want to always see that. But it has to engage me too, as well as people who may not be paying attention to our stories. So I think, that's one of the best ways that we can bring people closer to our humanity. And I've seen it affect people. I always say that movie Moonlight brought people, a lot of people into black, another experience that they never thought black people went through. And I think The Hate U Give has, you know, another way to take people into our world, into our families, into our lives, and the dynamics of that without being stereotypical. And it's, Angie wrote something that wasn't stereotypical.
It's absolutely powerful. I want to dive into just one more subject that we see, and in the clip we see Starr say, you know, really the challenge of, you know, living in one community, going to school in a totally different community, and feeling this pull, you know, this question of race and identity and who she is and who can she be. I just want to dive into that because that's very real. It happens. Young people, I think all people experience that, but I just want to just dive in that, and if any of you have just any comments on this notion of identity and race and identity, it's highlighted in the film.
Well, I think something Regina said earlier is like, one thing is we recognize that we are colorful people. We are people who have so many like aspects to us. And just because, I remember when I first, you know, started doing rap that was conscious, like every girl I met would want to talk to me about conscious stuff. And I was like, yo, sometimes I just need to like, let's talk about something else. Yo, let's laugh. Let's go bowling, man. Let's have some wine, man. Do something. Because, and I'm bringing that up to say there's so many like different aspects to who we are that it's just important that we can show that and allow that to be. And when you're finding your identity, know that, like I grew up saying like, yo, I'm, you know, rolling around trying to gangbang with some of my homies, but I also was like, man, I got to do good in school. My mother go whoop, you know, you know. So I had to give all those aspects, and eventually I was able to kind of put that together and be like, okay, well, this is who I am and this is who I am. I don't have to be like one thing to just be black. I don't have to be like one thing to be just Muslim. If I'm a Christian, but I'm saying I don't have to be one thing like, and let that one thing define me. And I had to learn that just, you know, especially being a rap dude, like when cats be like, yo, you're a rapper, they automatically put you in a box. You gonna come late, you gonna be smoking blunts, you know, that's just what they automatically think. You know, I'm talking about when it comes to movie production and all that, that's what they would think. And but you break out of those boxes by just knowing who you are and dealing with the authenticity and truth, and knowing that we all in the journey. I'm still learning who I am. I'm like going through things, digging in my past, figuring out things about myself. And if we don't let our children know that, yo, this is gonna always be, you're gonna always be learning new things about you. Don't beat yourself up if you've made these certain types of mistakes. Just don't keep repeating them. Then I mean, then we ain't doing a good job of parenting. But I feel like we there now, and we know that mental health, as you said, is part of the things that we should be addressing within our families. Therapy, you know, and just spiritual support. We forget to talk about God, and I'm like, man, God is the beginning and the end for it's, you know, and I just believe in
Into that.
Well, I mean, I'm from D.C. and I love,
DC.
I'm pre-gentrification D.C., so it's a little different when I come home now. But, you know, the beautiful part about growing up is that I did go to a predominantly, you know, white school. I mean, there were probably 6 of us, you know, and we sat together. You know, it wasn't a problem. Everybody knew. You know, you see somebody black, you're like, let's welcome her. But being in that, this was all girls, being in that environment, I was never really confused because I still lived in a city where I saw, you know, black people like winning great jobs and like, you know, being like, I'm a G11, you know what I mean? Like, you know, like having their great jobs. And, you know, I also saw drug dealers, drug users, but I didn't see black people in one, you know, like facet of life. There were so many different vibrations that we had. And so, you know, and then I had my brothers, like if I came home and I talked, you know, too articulate, they'd be like, hey, you know you still are. And I'd be like, wait a minute. But, you know, it was good because it was grounding and it connected me. And I had my friends, but I also, you know, I'd be like this world and that world. And I could just be very comfortable and excited about being, you know, a black girl, because, you know, my mayor was black, you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
his wife was black. I was like, wow, black people are doing it. And I think that was what was so unique about Washington, D.C., you know what I
Yes.
mean? And my
And we still
brothers,
have
they didn't have nothing else to date but black women, and they loved them. I remember the first time I went to New York and I saw a black dude dating a Puerto Rican. I was like, what's that? I hadn't really seen it. I was in D.C. and I was like, you know, and that was like all different, you know, sizes, shapes, colors, complexions. And it was, you know, so it was always like pretty incredible to
Yes,
me.
and DC still has a black mayor, a black woman
who
mayor.
is my friend,
Yes.
you know, Muriel Bowser. You know,
Yes,
we grew up
absolutely.
together. So yeah, it's still doing it.
Yes, and Russell, you're from Oakland.
I am,
So, yes, so Oaktown.
In the house.
I get to spend some time in Oakland, but you know this notion
I was there
of-
pre-gentrification too.
I was getting ready to say Oakland is dealing with its own.
That homogenized milk.
But you know this I think it's important because there's these scenes in Oakland, you know, is really, you know, the home of the Black Panthers.
Yes.
Yes. Oakland is the home of a lot of amazing movements and leaders, and really still a place of resistance.
Yes.
And in this film, in this movie, you know, Black Lives Matter. You know, it quickly became a hashtag, again, inspired and started by 3 black women. But now it seems like, you know, there are a lot of people, and the film explores this, where Black Lives Matter, it's a buzzword, it's cutesy, you know, but it's real, it's resistance. If you know the history of Oakland and the resistance movement and the Black Panther movement, can you just talk about this? Because I think the film explores the dynamic nature of activism and allies and resistance.
Yeah, I think there are many ways to express or show or manifest activism, consciousness, conscientiousness. I think that when we talk about Oakland and we talk about the Panthers, understanding aspects of the history of it and the dynamics of it, we always talked about growing up the ISP, living in the spirit of the Panther, and we were taught, by our parents and uncles and aunts, that you don't necessarily have to do what they did, you know what I mean? But you just have to know who you are. And I think, and understanding that, it's how does it manifest itself? And so, understanding that history, I had to find, I think everybody has to find their way to be an activist. I think everybody has to find their way, their rhythm, and their time when it is for you to speak out or speak up. I think we have to give people their time to grow up. I think we have to give, people their time to gain the knowledge, I think we have to give people the time to find their space, right? And then when they do that, or when one does that, how does that manifest? Does that manifest through your writing? Do you, are you a poet? Are you a novelist? Does that manifest itself through your artistry? Are you a vocalist? You a rapper? All these things. How it manifests for me is by being an actor. How it manifests for me is I have taken the energy, the understanding, the books, the knowledge, and it coalesces itself into the energy that is me. And so that in turn, it comes out in the parts that I take, the level of consciousness that I take into deciding what roles that I want to do. They say you can't lie in life and tell the truth on stage.
Say that again.
You cannot lie in life and tell the truth on stage. So I have to understand that what you see on screen is a part of me. It has to be in you, I guess is what I'm saying. So, whatever character that you're going to manifest, whatever I'm going to creating, the consciousness, the conscientiousness, the understanding that is me, that is Russell, I'm putting that into the work. And I'm putting that into the work so that the audience, and so that I'm trying to give you something you can feel. You know what I mean? So that you can come back, you say, bro, I've had people, bro, man, right on, I felt that. but that's born out of what is in me. And so I think that's what happens for different people. You know, again, whether it be through writing, music, poetry, rap, whatever that is, as long as it comes from that conscious understanding and you're giving the people something they can feel, that is in turn, in a sense, in its own way, activism.
Thank you. You know, thank you for that. So we are here at the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation's annual legislative conference, which is a vehicle for action. The theme is that, you know, the dream still demands. That's important. The dream still demands. Now, we're in Washington, D.C., and we know that not too far from here at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, that there are a lot of policies, a lot of ideas, there's a lot of things that are being created that are doing detriment to our communities. And in many ways, this film, I believe, will spark conversation, propel movement. I think it's telling, and I'm sitting here, I'm looking at Congresswoman Val Demings, that as a former chief of police, when you heard about this film, you saw this film, you said it was important to bring this film and this amazing cast to have a conversation about what this film is demonstrating. But it's important, I want to get in and talk about, you know, in this time, in this moment, in this country right now, I mean, we are under attack. Like, let's be very real. We are under attack, and this is an opportunity. We have an election year. This is a nonpartisan conference, but it's important that we vote, that we speak up, that we take action, and I think that this film could do that. And I really want to just talk about just the importance from your perspectives as artists, as influencers, the importance of activism, the importance of voting, the importance of being the change that we demand in our communities.
Well, one like really life-enhancing moment for me was getting to be a part of the movie Selma. And at our first rehearsal, thanks. At our first rehearsal for the film, we sat down with Ambassador Andrew Young, and he was like, we were all standing around him, and he said, "What are you willing to die for? Live for that." He said that was our philosophy of the civil rights movement, is we were willing to die for freedom and justice and equality, so we lived for it every day. And that night I went home and was like, man, okay, I got my foundation. I rap these conscious songs, and I'm doing okay, but am I really living for a purpose that I say? Like, when I say I'm doing it for the people, am I doing it for the people? And what am I doing for the people? And that just kind of activated my activism in another way, because I was like, all right, I don't have all the ideas. I don't even know all the political structure and stuff. So how can I connect myself with people who can educate me? And also, how can I use my whatever abilities I have? Because one of the things I noticed about them during the civil rights movement, it was strategy. They were coming up with ideas. Those marches, when teenagers was marching and getting beat on TV, that was a reason for that, to show America certain things. So I was like, man, how can I put my creativity and the access that I have towards real activism? And it really just happened by being able to be like, okay, yeah, the more I get, the more, you know, the awards and getting, you know, like as Russell said, it's important to even take on conscious roles. And those things started coming to me at certain points. But along with doing the art, it's like, yo, what programs can I have or connect with in cities, or how can I go listen to people and find out where I can help at? And that's basically what it boiled down to, was really connecting the dots. And you know, it's still a process. I still learn. And I used to be one of them dudes that was like, growing up before 21, I was like, man, I ain't voting. Don't nobody represent me. But now I'm like, if you out there tweeting, Instagramming, and you protesting, you better be voting too. Like, you need, like, that, you got to complete it with the trifecta of that action. And action, as Russell said, sometimes it's going to come through, the activism ain't, all of us ain't going to be poets or artists, but man, you could be an activist if you're a waiter at a restaurant. just by actually being a good human being and showing love and respect to one another. To me, activism starts just with how we treat ourselves and treat one another. That's where it begins, and then how we treat our family members and our communities. And then, you know, so activists, we need activists as teachers, there's photographers, there's architects, there's security guards, there's police women and men, congresswomen and men, actors, filmmakers. You know, whatever you do, we can be an activist. It's just being activated by something that you can change in our communities. And the first thing is just vote. Just vote, please.
Vote. Did you hear that? Vote, vote, vote. Yeah. Vote, vote, vote. Register to vote. Make sure you're on the rolls. We get removed, like it's real. We get removed from the voter rolls. It's a thing called purging. So you got to make sure that you're on the roll, register to vote, and vote. You know, Regina, I want to go to you. And, you know, Black Girl Magic, we hear it all the time. But truly, I believe we've always been in a moment of just seeing Black women grow up and just shine. It's always been, I think, the media, the other media is just starting to take hold and see that. But this year, I mean, we've seen, you know, there's Stacey Abrams. There's just so much just magical, Ayanna Pressley, and just Black women breaking barriers, and Black women that are leading movements. You know, I think about people like my sisters, Tamika Mallory and others, and the women's march, you know, led by women of color, you know, Linda and Carmen and others, and just the role of Black women in this moment in time, and Black women actually at the helm of resistance and movement. So I just want to just...
You know, I mean, I will say, you know, Black women, you know, we birth babies and we birth movements, you know, and how we do that in so many ways, and I feel like we create a tone, you know, we create an energy, you know, we have I remember my neighbor, Persian dude, he said to me when I was at his house, he said, you know, if I were a Black woman, I'd run the world. And I was like, you what? And he said, yeah, because the intuition, the divine intuition and divine guidance that you all have, we don't have it. And I think in this time, we're tapping into that. We're trusting that. You know what I mean? And what will come out of that will be shifts we see in elections. I mean, even what happened, I think they talked about it in Alabama. You know what I mean? We will show the deciding factor that we have always been. And so I always encourage Black women, your voice is so incredible. And you know what? Everyone, we all want to hear it. I want to hear it. You know, our men want to hear it, our children want to hear it. I look at my mother and my grandmothers, and they're not, you know, those are the people on TV, but I'm talking about the women I see day to day who work hard, who, I'm sitting here now and I'm like, this was the police chief? I was like, that right there, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like I beam at that because there's so many strokes of strength and wisdom that, I get to see that look like me. And that's a magical feeling to dwell in. And so in this moment in time, I just encourage our young women who are, you know, beautiful and going to law school and they're gonna make changes, that we create rooms of support. You know, my job right now is to support. And then also, you know, I do a lot of volunteer work with senior citizens. You know, let's not forget, you know, we have the road that we're paving, but the road that was paved for us. And, you know, I hope to get old. And, you know, I take a lot of time with seniors, and when I look at things like Social Security and those things that are being cut that can affect, you know, a time in our life that should be golden, that will affect us greatly. And, you know, education and our babies, you know, it's important that as women we know that, you know, we are a big answer to that change that will shift everything. So vote, ladies. I know we're going to vote.
So, Regina, you made a very important point about voice. And finding your voice, and this film explores Starr finding her voice and using her voice, which her father, and we saw in the clip where Maverick says, use your power. Use your weapon, use your power, which is the voice. So that's really pivotal. And I'd love to just explore and have you all just comment on the importance of finding voice and then using that voice to propel us forward, to challenge us. I think that's extremely pivotal, and I think Angie Thomas does such a remarkable job in really exploring that in a real way and making it very clear that there's a process in finding your voice, and then there's also a process in having the courage to use your voice.
I mean, I want to point out that the voice was, how it was cultivated at home. Mm-hmm. It was cultivated, with her family and with her, brothers and sisters. I mean, her brothers. I think that there's just beauty in that, and it shows how important the familial structure is, and just the family is, both at home and extended, and the community, and just realizing where she comes from is rich. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean, and that the people around her are rich and beautiful, and I think it took a while for Starr to really realize that, this is where I come from, these people matter, they mean something, and I need to use their energy to propel me forward, mm-hmm. But it all started at home.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I actually, as you were saying that, I was thinking, it made me think back to when I first started rapping, and I went to the studio to record my demo, and we went with some girls we knew, and they was like, man, your voice too high, so I tried to rap in a deep voice, right? And it sounded weak as hell, really. And I eventually was like, I just had to discover what my voice was, and it went through me not listening to what everybody mm-hmm. actually was saying, and I eventually got to a place where I was like, it just took work. I would work on it in the mirror, work on it hearing myself, working on it around my friends, and then it became something that was natural for me, and it just was organic, but it developed through the ups and downs and listening to other people and following at certain times. Mm-hmm. And I think that's, for me, a good comparison to how I've been finding my voice in my life too, because sometimes, even in all truth, I know we're talking about the movie and how great the parents are, but sometimes, your parents may tell you to do something out of love, but it may not be your path or your voice. Because my mother is an incredible human being, and she's the reason I'm up here. But when it was first time for me to leave FAMU and go start rapping, she was like, shout out to Fam. We got one rapper in here. That's all right. We represent two. 3. All right. Oh, 4. I'm 1, 2. But when I told her I was leaving the school, she was like, you tripping? What are you talking about? No, you ain't leaving. That ain't happening. And I just had to fight for it. But that was my voice. She didn't even realize it, as much as she, wanted me to succeed, and I was doing well in school too. I found something that I really was passionate about, and your voice is your voice. That's the thing that God has given you. It's almost like nobody else can determine it. We can all plant. She planted seeds. Lisa and Maverick in the story The Hate You Give, they plant the seeds and give the foundation, but it all just takes, the person to go through the journey, and then you understand what your voice is. That's how I've discovered my voice.
I was going to say, I used to, it's interesting now hearing it when I first started. And, there are many voices that we have, but from a professional point of view, I remember starting off in comedy and thinking, oh, that's awful. Because I was like, no one takes comedy serious. I'm not going to be, I gotta do something else. And I remember looking at my friends who did dramas and being like, oh, well, my career isn't as valid. And it wasn't until somebody had cancer and told me they quoted some curse words I said, which was embarrassing, but they said that cheered them up every day, that I could see the value. And so even though we may not bring what the collective deems as most important. You know, we don't know how what we do touches someone. And if what you do brings you joy and then it's able to affect someone in a way that you may not always be able to see every moment, you have to trust that when those doors are opening, then you are in your path. And when you're in your path, you get to own it. And when you own that, you get to create a voice that, see, music is coming. My shit is so real right now. It's like, I got a soundtrack. I know, but, you know, and then from there, other things will blossom, and you don't know what it is. I mean, sometimes it's the mystery, and, you know, your voice kind of, you know, it's going along with the journey of your life. And so your voice may, you know, it's like I used to listen to people and be like, oh, you know what, I need to be this. And then I was like, you know what, but that's not really me. Like, I can't help but tell a joke. So instead of trying to coach that portion of myself, you know, I learned to incorporate it and embrace it. And then, you know, there are people who they respond to that, and that's what's so great. We got billions of people, and we have voices, and they all reverberate and they all affect everyone. So it's just kind of about applauding and supporting the various voices. You know, the beautiful chorus that we are.
You know, in the film, you know, we're talking about voice and finding your voice, and the story centers around Starr, who's in high school, and she's young. She finds her voice, and she also is propelled to be a real catalyst in a community. But her community is complex, and we see that there's a lot of dynamics in the actual community in itself, and I think that's a powerful aspect of the film, and also law enforcement in the film. You know, law enforcement in this film is depicted, you know, Starr's uncle is and you play Common, you know, when I heard that you were playing law enforcement, I was like, this is going to be really good and really amazing to see this. I really want you to just talk a bit about playing law enforcement, you know, as you were preparing for, you know, the character, you know, what was the process and what did you learn?
Well, that was one of the reasons I really wanted to do the film, because, you know, one of the issues that we have going on between law enforcement and black and brown people is the lack of communication, lack of understanding, lack of compassion. And I felt that, you know, I've been on the side of black and brown when it comes to the way we've been dealing with law enforcement. But I also recognize that all law enforcement was not bad. It's like good police officers out there, it's good police chiefs out there, it's good government officials out there. But as one of the brothers said to me earlier today, all it takes is like 1% to do something wrong, and then that just spoil it for the whole crew. And we know there's been a mentality of that in a lot of police forces in the system, but I don't want to stereotype it and want it to say that all of it is that. So I felt it was important that Uncle Carlos, first of all, Angie wrote it that way, but Uncle Carlos showed the dynamics of what it is being a black police officer and really coming from the community, and also like caring about the community, but also because you're dealing with the community a lot, you may have some stereotypes. And I think the thing that we got to examine in the scene that you see in the film is, like, Uncle Carlos still has some growing to do. Like, he still, even though he was in that position, he still was like, Starr checked him in a way where he had to look at himself and be like, yo, I've been thinking I'm doing the right thing, and I really haven't thought about everything that I'm doing. And that's where, you know, I don't have the solutions for how to train police, but I know anybody dealing with any community should have compassion for that community, should have understanding, should either come from it or know that you got to be in proximity of it in a way to listen to it and understand it. So I thought Uncle Carlos was just bringing that dynamic and showing people that's watching the story that may be like us, that can say, yo, Alton Sterling, like, I don't say Alton Sterling's name like just saying it. I realize that's a human being that lost his life. His family's still dealing with that. And we say these names, like, and we feel that because we understand what it is. That's a life. And so to give that, for us to feel like that, it's important that and I said this earlier, for us to move forward, we do need to know the perspective of what some of these police officers are going through, what some of these people are, so our discussions can be not just like, hey, y'all all wrong, and it's just pointing the finger. It has to be some type of conversation where we listen, we learn, and we figure out solutions. That's what I was hoping to convey, and I think, somewhat that's what we got in this film.
Well,
If you all could give me just a moment, I want to pause to recognize the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation, the woman who is responsible for all that we are enjoying over these couple of days, Representative Sheila Jackson Lee from the great state of Texas.
My sister is so dear. The Honorable Val Demings, if I can call her that, is very special to us and very special for the uniqueness of her experience. But I will tell you that as a member of the Judiciary Committee who has had some years of seeing the frustration of what you are talking about, I can assure you that the lady at the end of the line on the second row, because she is a freshman or just here, does not hold back and provides an enormous insight on your behalf. And I want you to give Congresswoman Val Demings a very, very big hand. Former chief of police. And I think she's sitting by her best man, is she not? Who is this sitting next to you? I know it. And so we want to acknowledge the man that's following you around and thank him for ascending to a new position. Is that correct? Thank you so very much. Thank you. Newly elected sheriff, newly elected mayor of Orlando County. Get it right? Yes. And I'm going to be brief. Thank you, Dwight Evans, member of the Congressional Black Caucus Board, and as well from the great state of Pennsylvania. Thank you. So let me, to the mistress of ceremonies, to these distinguished storytellers, to Common's distinguished storyteller that he is, in terms of telling truth to power, let me say that I serve as a ranking member on the Criminal Justice Committee. And these are the kinds of messages and information that allow you to be power-filled. But I want you not only to just look toward us. In this, as we see the foundation and all these sessions, we want you to take your toolbox and go back home. And take this information of the hate you give, take this information about knowing police officers, take this information about assuring that you will have the kind of response that you can get something done. That's why you're in here. And that's what I hope that you will do. And I want to thank these artists, and we'll call them actors, who tell stories where people can understand it and feel it. We cannot honor you enough. And we thank all of the producing companies. And I know your hometown is Disney. We thank them for the stories that are being told. And so on behalf of the Congressional Black Caucus, again, we appreciate all of your presence here. We thank you for joining with Congresswoman Demings on this very important session. And I will make this one anecdotal comment as I go to my seat. Congress cannot be afraid of investigating things that are painful. And I can assure you, because we are a nonprofit 501c3, but if you vote in 2018, what did I say you had to do? Vote in 2018. You will not be able to imagine the constructive oversight so that the pain of Trayvon Martin's mother can be cured, or Michael Brown's mother, or Eric Garner's mother, or Walter Scott's mother, or Tamir Rice's mother, or the brother in Sacramento, or brother in Midwest, down in Louisiana, Brother Sterling, or the tragedy. Every day I remain baffled. I'm going to use that polite term because I've been on the Criminal Justice Committee now for years. my constituents have honored me. But I remain baffled, and I'm going to be counseled by my chief, that you can say that you didn't know what apartment you were in. I'm not going to let this rest. I hope Val will help me call for hearing for this. And the person who is innocent winds up dead. So I go to my seat by saying, there is no angst against law enforcement. They are our brothers and sisters. They are our husbands and wives. We are military and we're law enforcement. And we want them to go home to their families, and we want us, weeds, to go home to our families. Thank you, Val. Thank you to these stunning and outstanding leaders. Thank you for being here at the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation. Do some tweets. Do some Instagram. Tell them where you are. Tell them what a powerhouse all of these members really are. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, come on, I think we could do a little bit better for our leader, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, a fearless leader, a fearless fighter. I think after what those remarks that she just brought us, I think we could just now, let's gather ourselves, and we're going to go into about 15, 20 minutes of Q&A. So as we go into Q&A, I'm looking at my dear friend and brother, Mark Thompson, host of on XM Radio every morning, Get Woke. I'm going to quote him because a question ends with a question mark. So let's just keep it brief. Let's keep it brief. I'm going to kind of keep us going. We're going to try to get to as many people as possible. But let's all be brothers and sisters in this process, and remember that there's somebody behind you and they have a question too. But we're going to try to get through this. But if you could just keep your question a question. So we're going to start right here, ma'am. And if you could just say your name and where you're from.
Hi, everyone. My name is Bridget White, and I work with an Afro-American newspaper here in D.C. My question is a personal one. I have a son, and he is afraid of the police. And I hear in this movie the father is telling the daughter, what to do in the case that you're, presented with law enforcement. And I'm just saying, what do we say to our children who don't look at the police as someone who's going to save them in a problem? They look at the police as someone that is harm. What do we say to our children?
You said, what do we say to our children who think that the police
is dangerous and not someone to protect us?
I think it's important that our children are aware that because they are black, they will be targeted, and we have to make them aware of that, and to not let their emotions get the best of them in these situations, and that still doesn't mean you have to allow yourself to be disrespected, but understand that the situation is usually hopefully you're not carrying a gun around, and you're dealing with somebody who sometimes has that authority to do certain things. So we got to teach them that that's off the bat, things ain't fair all the way. Right. But to also understand that everybody is not like that. And I think it's hard to teach, but one of the most important things that we have to allow our children to identify is instinct and their gut feeling, and that has to be used in situations. Right. And I think regardless, if you go to any situation and be respectful, that's the best you can do. That's the best we can do. Is teach them to be respected and respectful in these situations. And you're not gonna always deal with perfection. Meaning it's not gonna always be the perfect police there. But we also want to let them know that not every police is like that, because then we're gonna continue to cycle just feeling like the police is the enemy.
Right. Right. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kamaria Mason with Bronze Magazine. I'd like to just ask, with the recent case of a tragedy with Botham Jean's death, was there ever a time during filming where the lines of reality got blurred while you were filming? And how did you get through it?
No, I mean, I don't believe.
Do which?
So
the
with the
lines
reality,
blurred.
okay, with the lines of reality blurred, with so much chaos going on in our society, when you were playing these roles, did you ever feel like you were living the role? Did you ever have to put yourself back in perspective that this is a role?
Well, I'll let them talk because I've been talking.
No, I understood that we were telling a story, you know, but the lines were never blurred,
Okay.
as it were. But we also knew that aspects of this story are real, so, but that was understood, but no.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Erica Jones, kindergarten teacher, South Central Los Angeles Public School.
All right.
You have educators across this nation that have literally bought this book for their entire classes. I have a colleague in Hayward right now that is on Donors Choose trying to raise money to take the entire freshman class to actually see the movie. So is the production looking at partnering with high schools and getting screenings so that young people can actually go see this movie?
I think they did.
I think,
You know
And
what?
how would we get
Yes.
information about that?
I'm going to make sure you get it. I know they have it at Fox, and they have partnered, and there's a group that's raising funds to send actual, groups and classes to schools. So.
all over the country.
And we will make sure, and I'm sure the office, the congressional offices that has brought this, the important part of this conference is action and follow up and follow through, and we will make sure that the offices communicate a way that you can be in direct contact with the production company and the studios on how to take this powerful conversation in the classrooms, because that's what we have to do. We don't want to just watch a film and that's this powerful and not take it back in the community
Right.
and let it actually be a catalyst for change.
Right. And the teachers have bought these books with their own money, just putting it out.
Well, I wanted to say, being a Persian American with my daughters having African American father, they have had a lot of struggle with their identity, like you guys were saying. And so I really wanted to ask, what advice would you give, for example, my 13-year-old who's having trouble being told she doesn't act black, but then at her white school, she's being told that she doesn't fit in there either. So I know you already touched on it a little bit, but some direct advice for girls in those situations, not only being Persian, but also being half black too.
I think you gotta tell your daughter, ask them, well, what's black act like? Like what?
Absolutely.
Like what is? And I know it's hard as kids because we all try to fit in at some point. But when we empower our young people to feel like, if you keep implanting the fact that she can recognize her Persian descent along with her blackness, but in the world, she's going to be cited as a black woman, but the fact that she's acknowledging all of it is important, and respecting that. But, when you hit them back with that question, like, well, what black people supposed to act like? Because, it's...
That is a good response.
Then, let's hear their answer, and then she can just expose them.
Right.
Let's expose the fake people, you know what I'm talking about?
That's right. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tori Collins, and I am a Chicagoan, but I currently live and work in D.C. So I'm dating a law enforcement officer. He's a federal law enforcement officer, and so often we have these conversations. And so we share our stories, and I have his perspective, and he has my perspective. But my question for the panel, and I know each of you guys lived in an urban area, Oakland, D.C., and Chicago. So my question is, what if any interactions have you had with the police throughout your life? So if there was an example from your youth or currently, because I know Chris Rock gets pulled over often, obviously. So I want to start with comments since we're from the same city.
Well, I have to say, I've had some interaction with the police. Sometimes I was not in the best. I wasn't doing the right thing.
Right.
So it was legit. and sometimes, I was, just being depicted as a black dude hanging out, and I had to deal with that confrontation. So I got to take some responsibility in my interaction with the police. But one little crazy story that happened with the police with me was, and I guess this has many colors to it. I was at the airport a about to take a flight to shoot my little first, a video off my first album. And I had my bag over in this, it wasn't close to me, it was further away. And this guy came up to me, because I was on the payphone, this day's payphone, right?
The 90s.
So
It was the
I was on the
90s.
payphone, this dude came up to me like, hey man, you need to get your bag. I'm like, and it was a white dude, I'm like, man, what's up? Like, what you mean I gotta get my bag? He's like, you need to get your bag. I'm like, what you talking about? Like, I kind of jumped at him too, like, what you mean? And then he just said, get your bag. He whipped out his badge, he was an undercover cop. And he's like, show me your ID. I had to go get my bag. He said, show me your ID. And I pulled out my Malcolm X book, Autobiography of Malcolm X, and I was like, this is my ID. This is my ID, and unfortunately, I got put in jail that afternoon. And didn't get to shoot my video until the next day.
That was very Chicago, by the way.
Yeah.
Are you taking us all the way back to payphones? Payphones?
I haven't really had, my cousin's a police officer in Baltimore, and, they lived in the hood, and he just went in the door, ignored a lot of stuff, and unless he was in uniform, he kind of wasn't really, like, searching his neighborhood for crime. They knew him. They'd be like, what's up, Gary? And, it wasn't until he, had his uniform on that I think he engaged in that role of officer. And as a woman, I haven't been arrested. Now, I've dated many men have been arrested. Unfortunately, and so, I've been in situations where I've seen, a guy maybe I was with get pulled over and, an altercation with a cab driver, and it really wasn't, my boyfriend's fault at the time. This is, years during payphone days, but he was actually the one who got arrested. So it's like, oh my goodness, I got a funny story. So I lived in Harlem, and I was living with my boyfriend, and we were arguing. He had been out too late, you know what I mean? Classic 25-year-old. Wait, you didn't answer, your beeper.
He couldn't find a payphone.
Yeah, I put 911. Anyway, so the next one we were arguing, and he was getting dressed. And he had a sweater on and boxer shorts. And we were in the front room, and I was looking out the window, and he looked, and like a guy was jumping out of his car with speakers. Like someone had just broken into the car. So he's like, socks, boxer shorts. He runs after the guy who's running after the guy down the street. And I'm like, stop. And then the cops arrested him because he looked crazy because he had the boxer shorts. And then I came downstairs. I wasn't dressed either. My hair was in roll, the curl, I was like, no, we just looked crazy. But the guy who stole the speakers got away. Got away. But anyway, that was just a funny story. But so I personally, I just have a visceral memory of that morning. We didn't get those speakers back either. But I had and I was like, that's what you get? No, I did. That was like my lesson for him. But God didn't like what you did last night. No. I made it more than what it was. But the truth is, I haven't. But I have certainly, as a woman, as a black woman who's, dates black men, and I have brothers, and my dad, I've seen it definitely affect, the loved ones around me.
Yeah, I've had, I have had one or two knucklehead moments when
Thanks, Russ.
I was when I was in the wrong. But there was one time I had to catch 3 buses to go to school, so I'm coming back and I see the bus that I'm supposed to get to my house, passing the bus I'm coming in on. I'm like, man, I gotta run for the bus. Coming home from track, and I had a bag, duffel bag, and I had my backpack, and I'm just like 15, just rolling for the bus, and I'm like passing all these people and just like doing this and dodging and everything like that. And then all of a sudden, as I'm getting to the stop, cop car just comes up, just says, Choo! And like stops me dead in my tracks, and the dudes get out. They're like, cops get out, and they're like, what are you running for? I said, I'm running for the bus. They said, no, you're not. And they're asking me, what did you steal? I'm saying, I didn't steal nothing. I'm running for the bus. And fortunately, at the time, I had my, I was at Catholic school, so I had my, my sweatpants on. And so it said St. Mary's, whatever like that. It says, this is where school I go to. we live up the street, I'm going home. He's like, you where do you live? I told him. He's like, you don't live up there. And I said, I do. We in my mom's house, live with my mom. And so, I got him in the back of the car. Fortunately, not fortunately, but, he didn't like handcuff me or nothing like that. But just throw me in the back of the car, took me up, and said to my mom, like, is this your son? My mom was like, did he tell you he lived here? Yes, ma'am, you answered the question, is this your son? But did he tell you he lived here? And he said, yes, this is where he told us to bring you to. He said, well, obviously he's my son. So she got a little, she was doing that thing. And then my mom was like, we're gonna go file a complaint. And then we went down and filed a complaint downtown. And it was interesting though, because the cops that got me were two white cops. But then when we went to the precinct, it was a brother who's like in charge or whatever. And he was like coming to kind of like, my mother was like on her, yeah, she was, like at her activist moment, like, this is wrong. And when you did my son, it was illegal to stop him and everything like that. And the brother was like trying to cool my mom and say they were in the right. My mom was like, you on their side. Like, what they sent you out? You know what I mean? Like, They sent you to quell me, because they were wrong? Like, nah. And then to bring it all full circle, about 4 years ago, we up in Oakland, out at a diner with my mom, having some bread with my wife, whatever, and a little spot. And my mom looks over, she says, that's that motherfucker that arrested me. It was like 20 years later, and he was an old dude, you know what I'm saying? And then she was like, that's that, and she got like, like one of those, but yeah.
I think the lesson here is never, ever cross a black woman. Never, ever.
Thank you for sharing.
So we have a few more minutes for Q&A. So we're going to try to get through as many as possible, but we just have a few more minutes. So we'll have about 3 or 4 more questions.
Hello, my name is Christina Darby. I'm a third-year African American Studies major at the University of Florida. Being that, I do attend a predominantly white institution, and we've just had a lot of issues. Most recent was our commencement and students being aggressively moved off stage for expressing themselves. How would you suggest organizing students to make sure that we're letting our voices be heard? Because yeah, we're upset and we talk about it to each other, but we have issues with actually organizing and taking action and doing things. So how would you suggest I start that?
Well, I think if you're talking specifically at your school, it's about who makes the rules. And if you know who makes the rules, you can gather up a strong enough group to be like, look, this is who we are at this moment. And we as students, you want to get as many students as possible. You don't just say it's only black students. It's students at that college that want to express themselves. So you want to gather up as many people that follow that mission as possible and confront that administration in a way that's respectful and in a way that's you know what you want and give solutions in ways that you think could help and I'm not saying that everything will change right there at that moment, but it may. And if it does, it does. But if it doesn't, you changing it for somebody after. Like Serena said the other day, like, shoot, if I don't get treated right, I'm opening it up for somebody after me. So, like, if you start showing up now, you never know. It may change by the time you leave school. It may change in a month from now, or it may change years from now. But you're doing the work. So it's identifying that administration and bringing a collective to go change it. But y'all got to come up with the ideas.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much. Tamara Dykes, California is me. I am petitioning California because they need to change its seal. It's a racist seal. It's a Confederate drawn symbol, the Great Seal of the State of California. I'm in law school, and I am trying to get it to reflect the proper origin of the Black Queen Calafia and the golden California Amazon warriors. It is true. Thank you very much. It's our history. and the state is hiding it from us. Common, thank you so much for just always uplifting black women. And I would ask now, how can Hollywood help us to reclaim our black history in California? I'm from this area. When I found out about it, I exclaimed, California is me. And someone in DC in Southeast said they don't do nothing for black girls, nothing for black girls. So Regina, can you help empower your girls? And I have a t-shirt here. And Common, can you please do a song to help uplift this truth and get us to have the first seal of the United States of America reflect a black image?
Thank you, sister.
Well,
Thank you.
That's strong what you're doing.
Thank you.
Keep doing that, sis. And like I say, yeah, we need that passion.
I love it. Thank you so much.
And
I'll be proud to wear this.
And we want to, you know, like, for me, I rhyme about stuff that I know about, so it would be important for me to get educated on it, because I'm not one of them dudes who just go rap anything. So you got that info?
I got it. She's ready.
There you go. There you go. There you go. It's our book.
This is an important lesson here. Always be ready. Because this is ready. She's ready.
The petition is at calliasme.com. Calliasme.com. Y'all press sign. Calliasme.com. Press sign to sign the petition. It's to all the black Congressional Black Caucus members of California. But what can Hollywood do to help, please? I already saw her yesterday.
Well, I think I think it's about educating people in Hollywood about this, but then you only gonna get the people who it really connects with. Some people will be like, yo, keep doing this, sister, and they're gonna keep moving, whatever their mission is. That don't mean you hold that against them, because everybody's mission is not gonna be yours. But you really just want to say, hey man, once you present it to people, if people respond and you start they can publicize it and start talking about it. Y'all come up with ways of how to get it out there. I mean, you're doing the steps that you need to take right now. You're never gonna get the whole Hollywood to say, this is what we want, because Hollywood is a bunch of people, so you can get the people that will react to it and move from there. But it obviously can be done with the passion you got for it. It can be done.
You gonna do a song?
Well, like I said, the more information I get, I can maybe drop some bars.
You know what? I'm gonna do one. I rhyme. I'm gonna drop. I'm gonna write something right now. Yeah. Okay. I got you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Next question.
Hi, my name is Fatu So. I'm a senior at Howard University, and I'm from Detroit, Michigan. I just recently started a book club. It's called the Corner Store Book Club for Black men and women to increase literacy in the Black community. We just finished the Hate U Give. My question is, how can I get more Black men to join the book club? I'm getting so many women, and I love it, but what are suggestions to get more Black men to join?
I think that's a challenging question. You just got to, I guess, the connected dots, social media.
Yeah.
That's a challenging one.
I think one of for sure, you're going to get some guys that go if you have
I got a couple.
beautiful girls
I was about to
like
say.
yourself.
No, you know what? I used to go to a church, and I was like, I got to get more men in the church. And I would get the tiny little shorts and tank top and pass out leaflets and be like, you want to come to Times Square Church? And, it worked. Men are visual, you know what I mean? So, that's, I know. They get some food in the kitchen, but that's okay, because, once you get there, they're going to enjoy the book. That's what,
Yeah, I mean, we joking, but in all truth, the presentation definitely means something. I ain't saying, you got to do what Regina said. I'm just, but what I'm saying, but I'm saying beautiful women coming up to you and sparking conversations and saying, come here. And then all it takes is maybe one or two dudes to be like, yo, I went to this thing, and and you're going to get some of them dudes to come through. Okay. And I think, making things fly for people instead of making it feel like work and preachy. Because, we working hard enough, and people dealing with so much, they don't want to feel like they're going to another preaching session.
Yeah, another class, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We have about 5 more minutes, so we're going to try to get through as many questions as possible.
Hi, my name is Winter Brooks. I represent the World Youth Foundation of Houston, Texas. So my question would be, basically, I want to act and I want to have my own business. I want to write a book, but there's so many things you need. And my dad, he provides for the house. So a lot of people don't trust him because he's like a black man, and the jobs that he does get, people don't really pay him for it. And a lot of people don't trust him because he is a black man. So what do you think I should do for that? Because those things affect me and my siblings.
And your parents are together? You know, I love that he continuously puts out the effort. And I think, you know, having beautiful daughters who love and support him allow him to endure a lot of the difficulties and challenges he faces. And, you know, I think the more love you shower on anybody, especially the beautiful love of a black woman to a man, and, you know, a daughter to a father. My father passed away, so, you know, what I wouldn't give to be able to just shower him one more day with love and support. So that's an honor and a privilege that you have, that he is present and that you get to watch him with love and respect and compassion, and, you know, continually encourage him and know that, you know, in you, he will perhaps get to experience and see the success in your life and your fruit that he may not get in his own, but, you know, you will continue to be that light and be that torch that it seems like he has, you know, planted in you. And you're, you know, he should be incredibly proud that you're here. And your question is, how do you honor him? So, you know, your love and your legacy and your life is a way to continue to do that. That's what I say now. You have these amazing men here.
Thank you.
So we have time for one more question. One more question.
Hi, my name is Leilani Smith, and I'm with Skinner Leadership Institute. And my question is, as a result of things that have been happening in the country recently, how do you think this film will affect the younger generations?
I think the hope is that it serves, continues to serve as continued inspiration, that your voice matters, that your voice counts, and that your voice needs to be heard, and, you know, that you just have to continue on, you know, that you can't be blunted, you know, by, you know, at any stop. You just have to persevere and just keep pushing through. And, you know, I mean, that's what I mean. I hope, you know, for young people that they just see themselves, you know, and that they'll continue to want to fight, learn, grow, and build on it.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we have time for one more question, I've been told. So one more question.
I have a question for Mr. Common.
I see you know,
You can just call me Gina.
Dang.
So, in the book, Starr's character is known for living two lives, one in her community and one in her school. You, playing a black officer, may have a same or similar experience. My question is, how do you think that affected your character, juggling between the responsibilities of your job and your beliefs and values as a black man?
Well, I think that's what I think my character had got caught up in the way that, like, okay, the police force was bigger than what his blackness was for a while. And I say that because until Starr confronted him with the situation of how he would react, he felt like he was doing the right thing and wasn't using his own, like, experiences / like own emotional intelligence to make a decision and not just prejudge. Even though if you've been in the streets and dealt with some brothers that was out there rowdy and maybe been at you and been wild, you still don't want to stereotype every brother and act like that's the situation. I think Uncle Carlos was in that situation where he did stereotype it, and because, you know, Starr confronted him with that, he had to think about, is he going to operate with right ethics and integrity and operate like a human being, or is he going to let being a part of a police force be bigger than his blackness and bigger than his humanity. And I think, you know, like I said, he had room to grow. And I think that's what some people, police officers experience. Like they think the blue is bigger than the black, or the blue is bigger than righteousness. I mean, if you're on the right side of life, then that's the most important thing we can do. And I think Uncle Carlos learned that lesson within coming across Starr in that situation.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, as we close out, I want to invite the amazing, incomparable Congresswoman Timmons back to the stage. As she comes back to the stage, let's give a round of applause to this cast. Now, I grew up in South Carolina. I'm a Southern girl. Now, I want you to look at your neighbor. I want you to say, neighbor, October 19th, I'll see you in the theater. The hate you give. The hate you give. We're going to fill the theaters. We're going to take action. And we're going to vote. Congresswoman Timmons.
Now let's give it up for our amazing moderator, Joteka Edie. And what about this panel? Russell Hornsey. Regina Hall. And you know you're really famous when you only have one name, common. We want to thank you all so very much. Our moderator said it, but go see this movie. We do have a screening tonight. It's sold out, y'all. That's a good thing. But please go see the movie. Let's start a movement and let's tell the story. And I want to just repeat this line from the movie, and I want you all to remember it. It comes from Maverick. Being black is an honor, because you come from greatness. God bless you and thank you.
Oh, thank you.